You've heard this story before. Mitochondrial Eve. Some woman in Africa. 200,000 years ago. We all inherited her DNA through an unbroken chain of mothers. And here's the thing, almost everything you just heard is either wrong or it's only the surface of something way stranger. Because the truth is, your most recent common ancestor didn't live 200,000 years ago. They might have been alive when the Roman Empire fell. There was a point in history when literally everyone became everyone's ancestor. Your immune system has its own private Eve moment happening right now. And the woman we call Mitochondrial Eve, her title gets passed down to someone younger every time a family line dies out. This isn't the story you've heard. This is what actually happened. Let's start with the biggest misconception. Mitochondrial Eve sounds like a person, a fixed historical figure, the one woman who started it all. She's not. She's a position, a title, a moving throne. Every time a woman has only sons or has no children at all, her unbroken maternal line dies. And when that happens, the title of Mitochondrial Eve, the most recent woman whose direct maternal descendants survive to today, that title shifts forward to someone younger. In 1,000 years, it might be a different woman entirely. In 10,000 years, someone else. Mitochondrial Eve isn't immortal. She's a statistical ghost that gets reincarnated every time a branch snaps off the tree. And if you've ever pictured Mitochondrial Eve and Y-chromosomal Adam as some prehistoric power couple, the mother and father of humanity, together in the same cave, looking at the same sunset they never met, they probably never even knew the other existed. Y-chromosomal Adam, the most recent common ancestor of all male line descent, lived roughly 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. Mitochondrial Eve, 150 to 200,000. Depending on which estimates you trust, they could be separated by 50,000 years. That's longer than all of recorded human history. The biblical names are poetic, but they're misleading. These weren't lovers. They were statistical echoes, bouncing through time, separated by an ocean of generations. In 1987, when scientists first calculated her age, they pinned her at roughly 200,000 years old. Clean, definitive, written in textbooks. But here's what almost no one talks about. That date has been shrinking. The molecular clock, the idea that mutations happen at a steady, predictable rate, turned out to be way messier than we thought. Mitochondrial DNA mutates at wildly different speeds in different people, different lineages, different populations. When researchers started using faster, observed mutation rates instead of the old assumed ones, some calculations dropped her age to as recent as 6,000 years. Now those faster rates are disputed. The scientific consensus still hovers around 150,000 to 200,000. But the point is, the date isn't fixed. It's a moving target. Depending on which mutation model you trust, Eve might be as old as the first Homo sapiens, or younger than the pyramids of Giza. And speaking of dates, one of the fossils often used to anchor this timeline might be completely misidentified. Omo 1. Found in Ethiopia. Long presented as one of the oldest anatomically modern humans, around 200,000 years old. A male. The proof that modern humans were already around when Mitochondrial Eve supposedly lived. Except, the skull was reconstructed as male based mostly on chin shape, but pelvic analysis suggests it's female, with a height and build matching modern women from the same region. And the dating of that site? It's bounced all over the place. 37,000 years, then 130,000, then 195,000, then 233,000. So one of the key fossils holding up the Eve timeline might actually be a much more recent woman misidentified, misdated, and misused to tell a story that might not fit. But forget 200,000 years. Forget the Stone Age. Because when you stop looking at just mitochondrial DNA, that single, narrow maternal thread, and you look at the full, messy, branching reality of human genealogy, the most recent common ancestor of every living human today might have been alive during the Roman Empire. Mid-statistician Douglas Roddy ran the math, not on DNA on genealogy, on the sheer mathematics of how family trees merge when populations interbreed. And he found that the most recent person who appears in every single living human's family tree could have lived as recently as 2,300 years ago. Some models push it even later to 55 CE, one person walking through a Roman market, maybe buying bread, maybe arguing about politics. And unbeknownst to them, they would eventually become the ancestor of every human alive in 2026. That's not 200,000 years ago. That's history. That's almost yesterday. But Roddy found something even stranger. Go back about 5,000 to 15,000 years, maybe as recent as 3,000 BC, and you hit what's called the identical ancestors point. The moment when every single person alive at that time who has any living descendants today became an ancestor of every living human. Not we all share one ancestor. We all share the exact same set of ancestors. A modern Japanese person and a modern Norwegian have precisely the same ancestors from that point backward. The Norwegian ancestor from 5000 BC might appear trillions of times in a Norwegian's tree, but they also appear in the Japanese person's tree. At least once. We don't just share one mum. There was a point in history when literally everyone was everyone's ancestor. The entire human family tree collapsed into a single web. And if you want to see what extreme shared ancestry looks like in a real population, look at the Americas. A 2008 study found that 95% of all Native Americans from the Arctic to Tierra del Fuego trace their mitochondrial DNA to just 6 women. 6 women who lived roughly 18,000 to 21,000 years ago, stranded in Beringia, the now submerged land bridge between Asia and North America. They weren't the only people there, but they're the only ones whose direct maternal lines survived. 6 founding mothers. An entire hemisphere. That's not a metaphor. That's the math. Now you've been told your entire life that mitochondrial DNA is strictly maternal. You get it from your mum. Your dad's mitochondria are destroyed after fertilization. End of story. Except that destruction system isn't perfect. Sperm mitochondria are marked with a protein called ubiquitin, a biological death sentence. But sometimes one escapes. Sometimes paternal mitochondrial DNA leaks through. Documented cases exist in humans. It's rare, it's tiny, but it means the pure maternal line we've been talking about, it's not actually pure. Your dad might have snuck a microscopic piece of himself into your mitochondrial DNA after all. Everyone who covers this topic mentions the germline bottleneck, the moment when a mother's thousands of mitochondrial DNA copies crash to as few as 1 to 200 during egg formation. But almost nobody knows about the second bottleneck, the one happening inside you right now. In 2019, researchers discovered that during immune cell development, your lymphocytes, your B cells, T cells, natural killer cells, they go through their own mitochondrial bottleneck. Their empty DNA copies drop to below 30 per cell through a completely separate mechanism. Not a bug, a quality control system. Your immune system is constantly purging damaged mitochondrial DNA to keep itself functional. It has its own private Eve moment, a ruthless genetic reset happening inside your body right now to stop your power plants from breaking down. And that brings us to the deepest, most rarely mentioned truth about why we all share the same mom. Mitochondrial DNA lacks robust repair systems. It mutates at 5 to 10 times the rate of your nuclear DNA. Without intervention, harmful mutations would pile up irreversibly, a process called Muller's ratchet. Eventually, mutational meltdown. The bottleneck isn't a quirk. It's a survival mechanism. A hard reset button. By passing only a tiny subset of empty DNA to each new generation, evolution forces natural selection to purge damaged variants before they spread. The reason we all share one mom isn't romantic. It's because evolution needed a kill switch to stop our power plants from rusting shut. Here's the inversion that changes everything. Most people think of shared ancestry as ancient, primitive, distant, a cavewoman from the dawn of time. But the deeper you go, the more recent it gets. Your most recent common ancestor might have lived in historical times. The identical ancestor's point might be younger than Stonehenge. Your immune system is running its own Eve program as we speak. The title of Mitochondrial Eve is being passed to someone new right now, as family lines quietly end in hospitals and homes across the world. We don't share one mom because we're all the same. We share one mom because the math of branching trees guarantees it. Because bottlenecks save us from ourselves. Because 6 women crossed an ice bridge. Because a Roman citizen had kids who had kids who had kids. And because, if you go back far enough, the tree doesn't branch out, it folds in. Every person you pass on the street shares 99.9% of your DNA. And if you go back 5,000 years, they share 100% of your ancestors.